Okay, it's really late. I'm really tired. I just spent the last hour reading through court cases after watching video of children in a concentration camp in Texas screaming to be set free. And I want to talk about what the fuck Democrats are doing right now when it comes to this DHS funding bill that's about to hit the Senate. I'm gonna do my best to get through this video without either screaming or crying. Wish me luck. First, let us remember that Republicans have a majority in the House and the Senate, and we are in this mess because of Republicans. They are the ones who voted for the big betrayal bill that is funding ICE to the tune of tens of billions of dollars more. If you see ICE kitted out like jarheads going to Afghanistan, but they're on the streets of Minneapolis gunning down Americans, please know it is Republicans who funded that. It is Republicans who are in every way facilitating Donald Trump and Stephen Miller destroying democracy. Republicans are complicit. They are collaborators with fascism. Let's be crystal fucking clear here. And the reason I think so many people are far more mad at the Democrats, the group of Democrats, because it's not all of them, who fail us over and over again, is because we expect Republicans to be fucking fascists. We expect Republicans to do the wrong thing. We expect Republicans to be brazen in their support of the oligarchy and in their own self-interest. We don't expect them to have our backs or to vote the right way, but we expect our elected representatives in the Democratic Party to do the right thing and to have a spine and to stand on the side of the rule of law and not to give basically like fucking aid and comfort to fascism, right? Voting to support fascism. And so it hits much harder. It feels like a betrayal because it is a betrayal when they do the wrong thing. And then we get a bunch of excuses. We get Hakeem Jeffries saying, we're the minority party. There's nothing we can do. We get Chuck Schumer saying, we're going to hold the line. And then a few days later, they all fucking cave. They lie to us. They tell us that they're going to take these actions and be strong. Like this time, guys, we're going to be brave and strong and tenacious. And then they're not. They're just not. And so if you feel betrayed, if you're angry consistently and you hear like, blue MAGA DNC corporate Democrats being like, focus all your anger on Republicans, we're not forgetting that Republicans are to blame. We're not forgetting that, but we also righteously can and should feel betrayed by the way that certain Democrats are failing us over and over and over again. This whole mess we're in now would be far less terrible if Democrats were a consistent and strong opposition party, but they don't act like an opposition party at all. And several members of the Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, I'm not sure if they're actually allies in the fight against fascism at all. I'll continue to quote Ezra Levin from Indivisible, who said, I have a big tent, but there's no room for cowards in that tent. And he was referencing Chuck Schumer. There's no room for cowardly Democrats who fail to meet the moment every time. And not only do they demoralize their own voters, they make our job so much harder because they're not actually being out. They're being a hindrance to us. It's not that they're like neutral. They're being a hindrance to us. And they get our hopes up time after time. And then they act like they're going to do the right thing, or they act like we're too stupid and they're going to make some kind of symbolic gesture that's not going to actually obstruct the fascists in any way. And they think that we're supposed to be satisfied with that. So they're either betraying us or they're insulting us. And it's awful to go through this over and over again. There was a YouGov poll that came out, it was either yesterday or early this morning, that said the Democrats' approval is just in the fucking toilet. And it's because not Republicans disapprove of Democrats as much as their own voters, right? Democratic approval is low, and Democrats fail to listen to their own constituents because they think, okay, well, we're just going to fix it all in the midterms, even though Donald Trump is trying to undermine the midterms every way he can, and he's likely to declare the results of the election are not valid. He's already trying hinky shit. Why do you think Pam Bondi is shaking down Minnesota for the voter rolls? Why do you think they want access to the voter rolls in all the states? Why do you think they gerrymandered the shit out of Texas's congressional map? They can't win unless they cheat, and they're going to try real hard and cheat. So for Democrats to be like, just got to write it out and let the Republicans piss off our base, so they'll vote for us no matter what. That's going to backfire. It backfired in 2024. There's a chunk of folks, y'all, who are not willing to play that game with you. You have to work to defend democracy if you want people to vote for you, and to get in this situation where they think that they can just bide their time because the options are literal fascist or corporate establishment Democrat who wants more of the same old late stage capitalism fucking the working class, right? Like our options are abysmal and they know it. And there are 100 Democrats in the Progressive Caucus who want more. They want more than what Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are willing to do for us. I understand that. And on some level, I feel bad for these progressive Democrats. My congresswoman is part of the Progressive Caucus. They don't have quite enough power to remove the corporate establishment Democrats from leadership. And more they're having to take actions that are in opposition to what leadership wants. There were a number of Democrats in the House who introduced these articles of impeachment against Kristi Noem. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries didn't want that. Democratic leadership did not want that. Guess what? It's really, really popular with people. It's so popular that 2 Republican senators are now saying Kristi Noem should be fired, right? And there's now this momentum building. Firing Kristi Noem would be much quicker than impeaching her. There's now this momentum building to get her fired. But there is this group of progressive Democrats, I mean, including like AOC's been saying it for years. There are several members of Congress who've been saying abolish or dismantle ICE for many years. As my 23-year-old says, ICE is not old enough to rent a car. ICE is younger than she is. Pretending like we've always had it is us having a very short memory, right? Pretending like we need it. We have to have immigration and customs enforcement in this highly weaponized form that we've only seen in the last year or so. It doesn't make any sense. We don't need to have it in any form. And more members of Congress feel empowered to say so because us, the constituents, are pushing them. Maybe some of them have always had this opinion and they didn't feel free to express it because they're trying to represent their constituents. Now, overwhelmingly, their voter base are like, dismantle immigration and customs enforcement, and why don't you just go for all of DHS while you're at it? And so they feel empowered to speak out because guess what? Power originates from the people. It originates from us. These folks here, they don't really lead. They don't really have courage and leadership on their own. We push them and then they make a statement, right? So we have now effectively pushed some of the more progressive members in the House particularly. And if enough of them feel pushed and they become popular enough and all of the polling moves in the right direction, then the leadership will start to take up a different position. But on their own, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are never going to lead. They're never going to be courageous. They're never going to take sufficient steps. They're timid. They're beyond timid. They're not leading. They're not going to lead. It's up to us to push. And unfortunately, us pushing takes time. It doesn't happen very quickly, especially because they are resistant to being pushed. So now we're up against this funding package that has passed the House. Republicans made sure it passed the House. 7 Democrats voted along with the Republicans. And now it's going to the Senate. And in the wake of the murder of Alex Preddy, suddenly Senate Democrats who before Chuck Schumer was like, I don't really have a position. He was dodging questions. They were going to let this funding bump for DHS go through. After Renee Good was murdered, Senate Democrats, I know that my senators were not going to vote for it, but Senate Democrats were just going to let this eke on by. Huge public outcry in the wake of Alex Preddy's murder and the escalations in Minnesota. Suddenly we see senators finding their spine because we push them. We push them. I've been very critical of Ruben Gallego because he said a bunch of misogynistic shit in a text, but he said he wouldn't vote for this funding package unless Stephen Miller got fired. We had a number of Democrats say that they would not vote for this funding package at all if it included more money for ICE. And it looked like Democrats in the Senate were going to hold the line. We know that John Fetterman's not. He's a piece of shit. But I'm not going to play you the clip of him being like, oh, it's so sad how mean everybody's being to ICE. After Alex Preddy's murder, he was like, it's so sad. But not the murder of Alex. It's so sad for ICE that they're being picked on. Right, so Rep. Delia Ramirez has called for dismantling DHS. My congresswoman has said we should dismantle all of DHS, that no member of Customs and Border Patrol or Immigration and Customs Enforcement should have firearms, and that it should all be defunded and dismantled. But we're looking at the Senate right now, right? That's where this vote is about to happen. And unfortunately, we're seeing Senate Democratic leadership who's once again, to me, looking like they are poised to pretend like they're taking a stand, but they're not going to. And I hope that I'm wrong on this, but they've already whittled down their list of demands to just 3. Just 3. They've given it all away and they've not even started negotiations. Earlier today, Tina Smith said that there is a unanimity of shared purpose among Democrats in the Senate. According to the Associated Press, their demands are now just a few things. Not Ruben Gallego saying Stephen Miller has to be fired, not dismantle ICE altogether. I know that ICE already has some funding that's secured through 2029. A different Congress could pull back that funding or make changes, but Republicans are not poised to do that. They want to do this funding bump. So basically, Senate Democrats are now putting forth this small, reduced list of demands. They're saying, if we don't get these things, then we're not going to vote for your bill. And Republicans need 60 votes to pass it. So they need 7 Democrats to vote with them. They've got John Fetterman. But here's the list of demands from the rest of the Democrats. End roving patrols in cities and coordinate with local law enforcement on immigration arrests. including requiring tighter rules for warrants. You mean follow the existing law? They are violating the law. They're basically like, please just start following the law. Please stop violating the Fourth Amendment. Please stop abducting people without a valid warrant from a judge. How are you going to get them to comply with that? How are you going to get them to comply with that? J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller and Donald Trump have all said, we're not going to prosecute you. We'll let you do whatever you want. Break every law. Murder people in the street. And we will engage in a coordinated cover-up to protect you. So to me, this demand is just like, okay. Sure, yeah, those are things that you should want. You should want Immigration and Customs Enforcement not to be a roving band of violent, lawless criminals, but that's who they are. They're not going to be something else. They hired Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. They're not going to be something else. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is no longer about customs. It's no longer about enforcing our immigration policy. It's about inflicting a reign of terror. And they're a lawless gang of violent criminals. They shot Alex Preddy multiple times, continued to shoot him after he was dead. An ICE agent clapped afterward. Clapped. And then they proceeded to rifle through his body looking for his phone and to count how many bullet holes they had pumped into him. They didn't attempt to offer medical aid. They didn't attempt to preserve the crime scene. They didn't attempt to do anything other than to gloat about what they'd done and try and strip away any incriminating evidence. And then Department of Homeland Security hid the murderers and then put them right back on the street. I heard earlier today that they had been put on administrative leave or something. Yeah, they're being hidden. And then after Alex's murder, we're now hearing Customs and Border Patrol agents in Minnesota saying, you raise your voice, I erase your voice. Multiple videos of Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Patrol agents saying to women, didn't you learn your lesson with what happened to Renee? With what happened to that woman? Didn't you learn better than to be speaking up, than to be filming? Just outright threats against women. They're abducting 2-year-olds and 5-year-olds and stuffing them into concentration camps. And you think asking them pretty please, follow the Fourth Amendment is going to work. Okay, so the other demand from Democrats is they want an enforceable code of conduct so that agents are held accountable when they violate the rules. That's called the law. That's called the law. They also want to require that agents have their masks off and body cameras on and carry proper identification, as is common practice in most law enforcement agencies. Hey, an awful lot of us have been asking for that since January of last year. And we didn't see Democrats lift a fucking finger against that. Okay, better late than never. Glad you got with that program. But you think that asking them to have body cameras on is going to be effective. Jonathan Ross was filming Renee Good's murder as he carried it out. There have been multiple court cases over the last year where DHS refused to turn over body camera footage and cases were dismissed, including Richard L.A., who agents shot him multiple times, falsely claimed he was ramming his car into agents. Bystander footage contradicted that claim, and then guess what? The court said, okay, agents, turn over your body cam footage. If you say this is what happened, we need evidence. This is discovery. And they said, oh no, we can't find it. And so guess what? The case was dismissed because they refused to turn over body camera footage. So what good is it to say you have to film this, the body camera footage has to exist, if there's no enforcement of turning it over? Because they're Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, they're violent criminals. They don't want to follow the law. They don't want to be held accountable. All of this is just performative. It's lipstick on a pig, y'all. It's lipstick on a pig. There's no way to have any of these measures fix the root of the problem. The violence will continue. Donald Trump and Stephen Miller will continue to use both Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Patrol as their paramilitary to advance their authoritarian agenda, to get them to do all of the kinds of lawless, violent things that members of the military won't do. But the Democrats in the Senate here are trying to paint this picture of like, we're very reasonable. We want what they call common sense reforms. And they say the burden is on Republicans to accept those reforms. They're trying to make it look like, see, we're very moderate and reasonable. It's a very small ask. It's a very small ask. And they're trying to make Republicans look unreasonable for not going along with it. That's such an outdated, idiotic move. That's such a bad play. Republicans, they don't give a shit about their elected officials looking reasonable. They want their elected officials to fund ICE's reign of terror. And those who don't, like, this is not the thing that they're going to care about. The Republicans who are turning against what their elected officials and the regime are doing with ICE, they also want ICE defunded. They also think the entire thing is wrong and that body cameras are not going to fix it, and saying, pretty please don't violate the Fourth Amendment, that's going to fix it. So not only are Democrats not doing what is sufficient to please their own constituents and their own voter base, they're not doing anything that's going to gain them any approval when it comes to Republican voters or independent voters. These aren't reforms. They're entirely token, and they're not going to do shit. And everybody knows that. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said he was waiting for Democrats to outline exactly what they wanted, and then he kind of said he might be open to negotiating with them. He said that he could potentially listen to some of their demands. He was open to the possibility. Yeah, so Democrats have already whittled their list of demands down to these couple of like really paltry, again, like ineffectual asks. And we're going to see John Thune go in and say, okay, I'm not going to give you this. I'm not going to give you this. Okay, we can maybe negotiate on this one. And what happened last time was Democrats were like, wait a minute, never mind. We're just going to hand you all of these, and we're going to go ahead and vote with you. We're going to just completely cave, right? The surrender Dems last time just completely caved. So it's really hard for any Democratic voter to trust that there will be any follow through on this entirely insufficient list of demands. And it's so frustrating because we see younger, dynamic members of the House who understand the assignment, who are calling for ICE to either be defunded or dismantled entirely. And again, also dismantling all of DHS and building something that actually works. And there's huge popular public support for that. But these wealthy, old, stodgy corporate Democrats, they act like now if they just drop an F-bomb here and there, but they still don't take any of the right actions that we're going to be like, that's fine, you tried. Wow, they really have our backs, right? To me, the contrast between these younger House Democrats, my Congresswoman said that she's in a signal chat with members of the House who've been there less than 5 years, and that the main topic of conversation is abolishing ICE. I'm not saying that she said everybody in the chat is down with that, but like they know that that's what the constituents want. They know that's the direction the country needs to be moving in. But too many senators, led by Chuck Schumer, don't understand what's happening. They're doing the wrong thing over and over again. We feel so betrayed because we have been betrayed, because we deserve, the American people deserve a functional opposition party in government, and we just don't have it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because this is the way democracy works, it requires a movement of the people. It requires us to remember that power originates with us, and that if we want them to do the right thing, they won't do it on their own. They will only do it because we drag them kicking and screaming. They will only do it because we hold their feet to the fire, and they will let us down over and over again. And they're hoping that we'll stop trying, that we'll give up trying, and they will prioritize their corporate interests. They'll prioritize AIPAC. They'll prioritize their own stock portfolios over us. And it really fucking sucks. I'm so sorry that the answer is you have to expend more energy pushing these folks who should be willingly doing the right thing and partnering with us. We got to be on the horn all day, every day between now and the vote. If you can go and meet with your senator's aides, that's even better. Make time, make appointments, go see them. Call every day. It takes 3 minutes. Call every day, send an email every day. Tell Senate Democrats their demands are completely insufficient. They're setting themselves up to fail all of us. That there should be no funding of ICE's reign of terror. This funding bump should not go through. It is politically a stupid move. It's an unethical move. It's an unstrategic move for Democrats to once again be weak sauce. And the truth of the matter is, even if they're a disappointment, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep pushing. And we, the people, have to keep organizing because we're the only ones who are going to save us from this mess.